I like the 3 minutes, 2 minutes. Nothing's gonna take me off that high from the budget.
Good afternoon. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday, February 20th, 2024. Today, our student representative is Will Hamburger from Riverview High School, and Will lead us in the pledge. The Riverview High School JROTC cadets will present the colors. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our student representative today is Will Hamburger from Riverview High School. Welcome, Will. It's nice for you to join us as a student representative. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi all, I'm Will Hamburger and I'm a senior at Riverview High School, class of 2024. And I'm honored to be here today and thank you all for having me. I'd like to thank the school board and Riverview High School's administration for the opportunity to share my experience and my experience at Riverview. So I moved to Sarasota in 2021, going into my sophomore year. And despite being in small schools my whole life up in New England, my transition into Riverview High School was made easy by the staff and the opportunities Riverview has to offer. So now for the opportunities. The biggest opportunity that I have down here at Riverview High School is the International Baccalaureate program. This IB program is recognized by the schools I've been applying to, the jobs and internships I've been applying to, and the clubs that I've chosen to join. And it's not just what the IB program does for me and what the teachers are teaching, it's the teachers themselves as well. A brief example is I have a history teacher who heard of my goals, which are to serve in the military and become an officer. And even though he's teaching history, after class he pulled me aside and said, hey, on the weekends, you should come to the Resilient Retreat Club, where I was able to help with veterans and people who are suffering from PTSD. So the teachers are there to not just help with teaching, but with goals that the students have as well. I think some of the biggest thanks, though, has to go to my counselors at Riverview. These counselors are like a mom, a best friend, and a teacher all in one. And I go there about almost every day to my counselor's office and talk to them about whatever I need to, whether that be school or non-school. And they do whatever they can to help me achieve my goals. And with that, when I first got to Riverview, and this was a new school with like 4,000 kids, this is all new to me, they would tell me about different clubs and opportunities that I should join to help me along this path. So some of those clubs were Mock Trial, and I loved it, and I became the president of Mock Trial. And even though I was in Mock Trial back home in New England, at Riverview it's a little different. We would have 2 lawyers, real practicing lawyers, come in every Thursday for our practices and help with me and my peers and take time off to do call and Zoom calls with us. So just something, again, I didn't have back up home. And this is among many other clubs, such as me being vice president of Riverview Fights Cancer, and doing toy drives and cancer walks and things of that sort. But these clubs helped me with stuff not just in school, but outside of school as well. As well as my counselors helping me do the Boys State, Florida Boys State program. And with Boys State, it's a simulation of Florida's government. And only 500 boys go, and they have to compete for government positions. And it's a lot of public speaking and working your way up in competitiveness. And by doing all these clubs and talking to my counselors all the time and gaining those social skills, Boys State was made easy for me. And that led on to doing the Naval Academy's summer seminar and many other things, as well as they told me about the STAR Leadership Program at the Boys and Girls Club. And I joined that, worked my way up, and then joined a board that they helped me go to, which was the Sarasota Bay Estuary Bay Program Board. So I was able to learn about the Bay and more about Sarasota. And so thanks to all these opportunities, and thanks to the support from my principal and my school and my friends and my family, I was able to earn an appointment to the United States Military Academy, and I will be going to West Point this summer. Thank you all.
Most impressive. Principal Hoey, I think that Will perhaps could come back and be an ambassador for the greatness at your school. Well done, Will. We'd like to thank you for serving as our representative and present you with a certificate of appreciation, and certainly wish you the best of luck in your future, but I don't think you're going to need luck. Superintendent Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have a couple of special presentations for this afternoon. I'd like to invite up Mr. James Slayton, our District Athletic Director, to present the Northport High School Academic State Champions Girls Cross Country Team.
Did go to Auburn University. We were considered similar to your school that you're going to. Just kidding. That's amazing. Congratulations. I would like to thank the school board, Superintendent Connor, Attorney Duggan, for giving us an opportunity to recognize the amazing accomplishments by our student athletes, individuals, and teams. And today, we're here to recognize Northport High School girls cross country team that won an academic state championship. And a lot of times we do recognize, obviously, accomplishments on the field or court, but this is an opportunity to recognize something very special in the classroom. They had a team unweighted GPA of 3.91. Which is amazing. It's one of the highest that we've had in district history. I'd also like to thank Northport High School Principal Shannon Fusco and Athletic Director Tony Miller for all they do for Northport High School athletics. Thank you. And at this time, to recognize these young ladies, if Northport High School cross country head coach Hans Duque would please come up.
Good afternoon, and I would like to thank the school board, Mrs. Fosco, for all the support that she giving us Coach Miller and Dr. Johnson, who I had the chance to coach for the first time in Northport High when you were there. Thank you very much. A little bit about these girls. I've been with some of them for about 8 years since they were in elementary school. So this is not something that happened overnight. It's been resilience. It's been training many years, and actually cross country is not the original sport. If you ask, and one of them is a state medalist, you ask her, I don't like running, right, Malia? And she's excellent at it, but she doesn't like it. Soccer is what's going on for them, and that's why my voice is like this, because on Friday, unfortunately, we went down on PKs, but I was screaming my heart out the whole game, but unfortunately, we went down, okay? Now, again, like I say, it didn't happen overnight. I know most of their parents, been working with them on and off the pitch. It takes a village. So I would like to thank all of you, and the school is being great. And now I would like you to meet them. Malia Hamburger. First two are captains, so Captain Malia Hamburger and Savannah Morgan. Alana Duque. Happens to be my daughter, yes. Gabby Ludi. Sophie Ramos. Abby Esther. And the following ones, they were sick, so they say hi, but they had to stay home. We got Hallie Hammock, Brenda Smith, Abby Ramirez, Brielle Carty, and Chloe Markham. Thank you.
They can just stand if they want.
Yeah, that's sounds like the flu is taking everybody. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Well done.
All right, moving on to our next item. We have a special, we're initiating something new. So typically, we, on our 6 o'clock meetings, have a student performance of some sort. On our 3 o'clock meetings, what I'd like to do, and we're going to kick it off, we've had such a great start with Riverview High School and Willem over there, great job in the ROTC, is we're going to start doing a school showcase at our 3 o'clock meetings, and we'll pick a school each month to give us about a 5 to 8 minute overview of the great things that are happening at their schools and the programs they offer. And really, it's just first to showcase the great and outstanding leadership, teachers, and staff at the school, the programs that they offer for the public to understand what we do day in and day out at our school, and to celebrate our students. So without further ado, our first one up is Riverview High School Principal Aaron Hoy.
Thank you, and I hope I can expand on what Will said, but good afternoon, school board members, Superintendent Connor, Mr. Dugan, and Will. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of showcase what we do at Riverview and all the amazing things that we do every day. So first and foremost, we were founded in 1958. Today we serve anywhere from 2,600 to 2,700 students annually. We are an A school with the state. We are nationally ranked this year as one of the best high schools, as well as one of the best magnet schools, and we are celebrating 25 years as an IB magnet school this year. So in IB, students have an opportunity to take different coursework for college credit. They can also take the IB DP program, which Will is in, which is our diploma program, which is one of our most rigorous programs. And if students finish, they can get 100% Bright Futures and start at university as a sophomore, sometimes halfway through sophomore year. In the CP program, students have an opportunity to go to a specific career pathway. So whether it's engineering, theater, marine science, digital design, computer programming, finance, business. They get an opportunity to really delve into that coursework and be passionate about those advanced courses, which again helps them at university. They also get a chance to do internships. So we have internships all over the community. We've added GCBX and Achieva this past summer. We also have an initiative called IB Lit and Lang for All, which every student will have the opportunity to take an IB Lit and Lang class their junior and senior year. They pass the coursework, they pass the exam, they get college credit. So last year we had over 600 seniors sit for the exam, which was pretty amazing to watch. And this year, Dr. Miner told me we have 708 signed up to test, which is one of the largest in the IB community. Of course, we have our Kilty Band, which is known for its superior ratings. We have 64 years of superiors. They participated this past, 2 weekends ago at the Florida Bandmasters Association and won 188 superior medals. So just with the Highland Dance Team and the Color Guard, that was 45 superior medals. With our band and percussion students, that's 143 superior medals. Out of all those medals, 29 students will move on to states where they will be either in solo or ensemble in March. And of course, we had some special visitors from London who invited the Kilties to the London New Year's Day Parade in 2025, which they are very excited about. One of our flagship programs is our Stars to Starfish program. We have a state-of-the-art planetarium, one of the few in the state of Florida that's a standalone program. A big thank you to the board for our brand new projector. That was worse for wear, so we appreciate that. The new shows are absolutely amazing. We have up to 11,000 students participate in our county and surrounding counties that come through that program. We also are very, very grateful for our aquaculture manager that you also approved to help keep all the live things living in the Aquadome. We have many things that live there, from snook that we actually raise with Moat Marine, and they help geotag those snook, and we follow them to see what red tide research does, as well as clownfish. We now have seahorses, mangroves, sharks, and axolotls. If you don't know what an axolotl is, Google it. It's a real thing. I didn't know it was a real thing until they showed me. But we have a great partnership with Moat, and you can kind of see in the picture that is actually Moat geotagging. We do not allow our students to do that, but they do get to witness it. And the great thing about this program, it's been around for 13 years. So the students that actually went and toured the facility are now teaching our younger generation. And they've been inspired to come back to Riverview High School in order for that program. So it's been a really great symbiotic relationship with the community. We also have our construction program, which is also a big thank you to the board. With the district and the partnerships with GCBX, her businesses, and Neal Communities, we have 60 students that have gone through the program last year. We have 60 students that are through it this year. It's hands-on activities. They get face-to-face time with local construction companies, and whether it's framing, construction, AC, electrical, they get an opportunity to expand upon those. So whether they go to STC the following year, go right into the workforce, or FGCU has a construction management program that they can go to. All of those are viable opportunities for our students. The nice thing is, we've only been through it 1 year, but the 2 seniors that I have on the board got hired at Half Acre right after graduation as assistant superintendents. So the program is amazing. The JFG program is something we started last year. It's called Jobs for Florida Graduates. They expanded us to 2 teachers this year. We basically have 120 students from honors all the way to at-risk that get an opportunity to learn on-the-job training. They have job skills, and they actually have an opportunity to be with a national career advisory that they meet with once a month. And we also have the JFG advisory, which is about 15 local businesses, and they meet with the adults to talk about what do our students need to be employable? How can they become better employees? The JFG advisory also did mock interviews on our students, so they got real feedback on how they would do in an interview. We also had one student who emailed us and said, "Thank you so much for doing this. I got a job based on the skills that I learned." So it is working, which is amazing. And the big thing about JFG is it supports post-graduation. So we actually follow the seniors that graduate within this program 1 year, and we touch base with them 1 month every year. Once a month. And what we do is if they don't have a job, we coach and mentor. How can we get you a job? What can we do next? How can we help you? And what JFG has found across the nation, if you follow seniors for 1 year, 95% are employed 5 years later, which is a great statistic. And we're in our first year, but I can tell you the students that we talk to are so grateful that we're still in contact with them. And they really do seek feedback and mentorship, which is amazing. And then I would say, without further ado, I just want to say we've had a great winter sports season. We have 2 basketball teams that play this evening at 7 o'clock. We have our girls that are in the Sweet 16 this evening. They play Venice, so it'll be district rivals tonight at home. And then we have our boys playing Plant City this evening. So without further ado, go Rams.
Let's give Ms. Hoy a round of applause for being the first one out of the gate. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to the superintendent's report. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're February 20th. It's amazing to see where we're at so fast. The year is flying by. I want to highlight a few things on our consent agenda as we approve item number 8, the approval of the agreement between Schoolhouse Links and Sarasota County. Schoolhouse Links has been our federally mandated homeless liaison. They really help target the students who are deemed under the McKenty-Vento Act for homelessness and track their attendance, track their registration, and help support those students through that time. And so this is a very important agreement, and we are thankful for the work that they do every day for our students. Not to be confused with Schoolhouse Links is another contract that we are going to be extending in terms of our finances is School Links, which is our college and career and life readiness tracker. We've been using this program for a couple of years now. We now have over 18,000 students that are active in the program. The goal, I know this board prior to my arrival wanted to set out to ensure that all students had a plan, whether it is college, career, military, whatever the case may be. And this customizable program has helped us really track students and the status towards that college readiness and making sure that they can apply to different colleges and get all the requirements for testing all in one platform. And so it's been a huge success, and we're looking forward to continuing this contract over the next several years. We have a lot of revised policies on today's agenda. You see them listed here. They have gone through the workshop process. They have been advertised for the required number of days. And today we will be approving those for final approval. A couple of news. We want to just say a shout out to all of our school resource officers and those who are here with us today and those who are out protecting our schools every day. February 15th was known as School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. So we thank you for what you do day in and day out. You are invited. We will be having a community engagement event coming up on February 23rd to review the proposed Code of Student Conduct. It is undergoing some pretty significant changes that we're excited about. We are developing, I want to thank our team, Don Clayton, Dr. Megan Green, for all the work that they've been doing in this proposal for a new student code of conduct. On the 23rd, we want to get community focus groups and input into what those proposed changes will be. I think it'll be very exciting. We've already started with some internal stakeholder groups, and now we're moving to our external stakeholder groups, and we will be bringing forth that proposed student code of conduct in the next coming months. So if you want to participate in that, please go to our website. There's a QR code. I know it's hard to see on this screen, but we'll make sure that that is available on our website, or just contact the district office and we will guide you in that process. We will be meeting from 9 to 11 right here in room A and B of the office. Also want to announce the initiation of a new task force here, and that is our vaping task force. This will be coming soon. As you know, there is an epidemic that is occurring amongst our youth. The latest statistics, 1 in 5 teenagers have participated in using vaping products. And unfortunately, it is one of those epidemics that are very, very hard to control because they are so easily accessible and they're so easily concealable. And, you know, it's become rampant, it's particularly in our secondary schools. And so we are not just going to sit down and let it happen. We're going to be active in trying to combat that. So this task force will be set out to educate students and staff and parents about the risk associating with vaping, reinforcing and reviewing our policies to ensure that we're comprehensive in our approach to strictly enforce Our expectations around that: cultivating a culture that values that health and wellness and encouraging alternatives to vaping, and making sure that we foster community partnerships who can help us, such as engaging local businesses, healthcare providers, and law enforcement to help prevent this epidemic in our schools. And of course, any resources available to help students who may be addicted to vaping, we want to provide assistance there. So if you are interested, we open this up to all community members, healthcare professionals, or whoever can help give assistance. There's a QR code here and also a link there. We'll have this on our website too for you to come participate as a part of that vaping task force. So more to come on that. So it is February 20th, and we still have about 9 more days this year. We've got a leap year, so we're still celebrating Black History Month, but want to just highlight a few of the great things that are happening in our schools.
February is Black History Month. Students throughout Sarasota County schools are learning this important history in many different ways.
Here in Venice Middle, we talk about it on the news and inform all the students about an individual, like a Black individual, every single day. For example, today we talked about Marie Van Brittan Brown and how her innovation of the alarm system has influenced us.
I've learned a lot about the historic people and how much they have affected history.
I think it's important to learn about African American history so that we are informed about their struggles and what they went through to get here today.
Up the street at Wilkinson Elementary, students are also leveraging their morning news to learn about influential African Americans.
I researched Amanda Gorman. She has written 2 books called Change Sins and The Hill Be Climbed. She wants to be president someday.
Mary McLeod Bethune used her influence to give Blacks more power and education and used civil service to achieve racial and gender equality.
Back at Pineview, 6th graders are incorporating Black History Month into their poetry and language arts classes.
We are doing a little poetry assignment about Black History Month. We were making little 6-word stories or trying to match poetry to a little portrait of a African American person.
I enjoy the activity because it allows me to learn more about important national figures and show that I do care about other cultures.
There's a lot of really interesting topics in it, so it's important not to just glaze over it and to talk about it.
Up the road at Booker High, students had the opportunity to meet a modern-day trailblazer.
Yeah, so we had an amazing Q&A session with former Secretary of Labor, Alexis Herman.
It was very inspirational to me, especially on a personal level, seeing a Black woman achieve such high standards up there, especially in the White House. And just to be in that presence, it was very nice to be around.
Talks like this really help me get a better understanding of other people's backgrounds and where other people come from. And it's really an amazing thing to learn about and gets you a more diverse worldview and gets you many different perspectives on different opportunities.
Black History Month is important in Sarasota County because there have been so many great contributors to Black history and the development and the growth of Sarasota.
Throughout the school district, the celebration of Black History Month is embedded in our classrooms and daily activities, and our pride shines bright.
So I know there's been a lot of conversation around this topic of African American history, and I want to just draw everyone's attention to Florida statute. Statute 10342 is our required instruction statute. And a part of that statute, it talks about the history of African Americans and what we're required to teach, including the history of African peoples before the political conflicts that led to the development of slavery, the enslavement experience, abolition, and the contributions of African Americans to society. Instructional materials shall include the contributions in the passage to America and the contributions of Africans to society. And we shall teach efficiently and faithfully using books and materials required to meet the highest standards for professionalism and historical accuracy. Along with that required instruction, there's a lot of things we're required to do in that statute. But in terms of being Black History Month, and we really want to double down in making sure that we are being faithful to the standards of African American history, I'm going to be launching a new task force. So we have two. This one is the Sarasota County Schools African American History Task Force, with the goal of promoting awareness and understanding and infusing the required legislation into our curriculum, the development of instructional guidelines, the standardized framework and supplemental materials that are outlined in the Florida statutes, making sure that we provide the appropriate training to implement this required instruction, and for the group to also make recommendations to myself and the school board of how to fully implement this instructional mandate. So we're looking forward to those. We're partnering with Asala, who is going to be helping us with this. We know that Asala has been working on the Freedom School, and we are working hand in hand to make this task force something that we should be partners in this and making sure that K-12, we are faithfully and efficiently teaching that required instruction. If you are interested in participating in that task force, there's another QR code right up here for you. And so we're looking forward to that, and I want to thank Asala and those who have been involved in that, and looking forward to seeing the great work that comes out of this task force. And that is it.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. Welcome the presentations and welcome the task force. It will not only bring the highest quality instruction, which Sarasota County rightfully deserves. I'm very interested in going forward with the task force that will be focusing in on the vaping piece, the health and welfare of our students. We've had multiple parents come forth in recent years, and I applaud you for taking the lead on that and coming up collectively with our community with solutions. Thank you. Moving on to hearing of citizens, we have 29 requests this evening to address the board. We'd like to welcome you to the hearing of citizens segment of our meeting. This forum allows the community to engage with the school board on matters concerning our education system. Your insights are vital to our educational decisions. I would like to outline some important expectations to ensure that an orderly and constructive meeting about the business of the board occurs. All speakers should have submitted a completed comment card before this segment. Speakers will be called in the order received by Mr. Enos. Each speaker will state their full name and shall confine their remarks to the business of the school board. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. A timer will signal when 1 minute remains. Please conclude promptly when the timer ends. Please address your comments to the board, not to the audience. We expect all remarks to be delivered in a manner that is consistent with school board policy. Abusive language, personal attacks, or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Please direct any personal grievances or personal issues in writing to the school board office. Audience members are requested to listen quietly and respectfully. Outbursts, applause, or other interruptions that disrupt the meeting are not acceptable. Any person that interferes with the expeditious or orderly process of this meeting, after first being warned that such continued interference will result in removal, will indeed be removed. We certainly appreciate your cooperation. I'm asking my colleagues, members of the board, to please hold any and all responses to public comment until we complete the business of the board, and there will be ample opportunity to respond to the public. Mr. Enos, please.
First two speakers, Joan Stoutenborough, and then on deck is Jim Kohler.
Good afternoon. Joan Stoutenborough, resident of Sarasota since 2008. I especially abhor two behaviors in my fellow human beings: discrimination and hypocrisy, especially not from public school board members. Practice what you preach, every student, every day. public school board members sending their children to private schools. Such an unlikely appointee with no higher education, no experience. Who was and is she really serving? Clearly not all students and staff. Damage done to thousands of students and staff, both by omission and commission. Removing character education after we, at our public comment times, are having to be reminded as adults what proper behavior is, and yet we remove character education from our kids. DEI. How could you want anything more for our students and staff than diversity, equity, and inclusionary practices? For example, one example, factual American history, as was just mentioned. Not whitewashed, but factual. The forcing or trying to force conservative Christian curriculum. No Vermilion, no more classical charter schools. Our state standards were very clear, and the separation of church and state is very clear. And our community is not just Christian, but many different religious beliefs. Our children, finally, are not little stepping stones in anyone's political quest for power. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jim Kohler. On deck is David Oakes.
Welcome, Mr. Kohler.
Thank you. My name is Jim Kohler. I'm with Venice High School. And whoever thought crickets would be the topic of discussion at the school board meeting? That's the answers I've been given. The answers I've gotten regarding the termination of Coach Carver have changed as the time passes by. It's gone from moving in a different direction to a number of little reasons, to FHSAA guidelines, to he just hasn't followed policy, to he just wasn't right, so we didn't renew his contract, to he didn't have a winning season. And now, what is their response? Crickets. Is this right to just stop communicating when it feels uncomfortable? Is this why you stopped communicating? Why have you prevented him from working as a coach at Riverview High School? Was it because there's too much chaos down in Venice High School, as rumored? Are any of these valid reasons to prevent a coach from coaching in a different high school? I would hope not. And now, I can't get a response from the school district at all. I've emailed each of you and even personally called Mr. Connor and Mr. Hayeda and left them voice messages with no response. So have I gotten a response? No. Crickets. Aren't you as the board supposed to represent us in these matters? Aren't you the voice of the admins? Where is the leadership within this group? Can someone please respond? Why was Jamie Carver terminated and prevented from coaching within the district? I've asked multiple times, and there has been FOIA requests made for the lacrosse and football booster financials. Is this how we need to get answers? Through FOIA requests? Was there any misappropriation of the funds with either booster club? Aren't you ultimately responsible for these books and financials? Where are the answers? Or do we need to involve the IRS and forensic accountants to finally get answers? Are you scared to have them perform an open and transparent audit? Or don't you have anything to hide? If there's nothing to hide, then why aren't you answering? Doesn't Coach Jamie Carver deserve a reasonable answer as to why he can't coach within the school district? I'm just a concerned parent, and more importantly, a taxpayer within this school district. Don't I deserve an answer? Or am I just not important enough? The lacrosse program was a very significant factor for us moving down here.
Thank you, sir.
David Oakes. On deck, Wendy Rosen.
Welcome, Mr. Oakes.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Connor and school board members. My name is Dave Oakes. Last school board meeting, I spoke about emphasizing critical thinking for our students and the necessity to look at alternative viewpoints. At this school morning, I'll offer some thoughts from Mrs. Ziegler. When I first heard in December about your situation, I thought to myself, this is not a good look. It's hypocritical. I've spoken with others and voiced my thoughts that you should resign. I sat in the last two school board meetings and observed and listened to the vast majority of the audience demanding that you resign. To be fair, some of the speakers offered sincere, heartfelt comments. Then in my mind, I switched the scenario and thought about what would happen if the shoe was on the other foot. What if a liberal member, not necessarily Mr. Edwards, was in an unflattering situation? Would the outrage be as great from the same individuals that are demanding you to resign? I concluded, no, highly unlikely. I sit in the back of the room so I can better observe the entire audience. I see numerous ban bully signs. I surmise these signs are directed towards your efforts to restrict literature from our school libraries and/or against transgenderism. It then dawned on me that the majority of the audience is actually bullying you. The truth is, you have conservative views. Could that be the real issue here? I believe so. Thanks to them, I've changed my mind. Do not resign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wendy Rosen. On deck is Barbara Vaughn.
Welcome.
Good evening, I'm Wendy Rosen. Every student, every day. Let's try instead every Sarasota County resident, every day. Bridget, your scandal and your headline-grabbing political gimmicks like Don't Say Gay law have now affected our quality of life for all of us in Sarasota, and is now probably affecting part of Florida, most of Florida as well. Today, Florida is less safe, less free, less prosperous, all because of the legislation and policies that you helped pass, policies that instill fear. They just don't affect students and families. Tourism is falling off. Ask anybody outside Florida why, and they'll tell you that hate is the reason that they don't come to Florida for vacation anymore. You were the instigator, and you won temporarily, but now you've overstepped your toes. You've stepped on too many toes, and last week our governor realized that your book ban idea has backfired onto him, and he's backtracking and changing the book ban law so that 2 of your Moms for Liberty buddies can't ban hundreds of books that they've never even read. Books about history, books about racism, about anti-Semitism, the Holocaust, and self-awareness. Florida is now has a bad reputation, not just for book bans, for censorship, abortion bans, costly attacks against corporations' free speech, as well as academic freedom and the stripping of parental rights. To those outside our state, Florida is the place where hate goes to grow. It's one thing when it's only a headline. It's a whole nother thing when your children and your grandchildren are afraid at school. Because of these cruel policies, children are afraid to ask questions and teachers are afraid to teach and answer those questions. These laws give other kids permission to be predators, to mock, to taunt, and to bully. Every child, every day. That's this board's motto. I hope you realize that your motto extends also to the idea of school safety and the increasing possibility of gun violence. At this very moment, the State House is considering lowering the age to purchase a gun to the age of 18, while additionally attempting to eliminate completely the waiting period for purchases. High school kids are the age of 18. I've asked this board to write a letter to the governor to object to this bill and stating the clear increased risk to schools if this bill passes. I've received no answer.
Thank you very much.
Barbara Vaughn, and then Rana Bazzini.
Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Vaughn. Most of you know me very well, and you know that, excuse me, normally I come here and pray. I'm going to break my tradition today because in honor of the last 10 or so days of Black History Month, I want to tell you a little bit about my Black history. I am probably the oldest person in the room, at least close to it. When I was 10 years old, my dad was stationed, my family was stationed at an Air Force base in Illinois. And as a 10-year-old, I went to school with all the other kids on the Air Force base, and some were from every color, every nationality you can imagine. I adopted, more or less, or she adopted me, a playmate in the summer. We lived on base, and it was a wonderful playground not far from my apartment. She and I got to be great friends, and I was so thrilled because I was only 10 and she was 13. Whew. Neither one of us, as far as I can remember, ever noticed that I was white and she was black. But that was not to remain the same. My dad sat me down to talk to me one evening, and I could tell by the tone of his voice and the look on his face he was not happy with me. But I didn't know what I'd done. He said to me, "Don't you understand that people have classes and boundaries and, you know, people are segregated by a lot of different reasons?" And I said, no, at 10, I didn't really understand much about that. He said, "My child, don't you understand that that girl's father is a lieutenant colonel and I'm only a captain? You can't possibly be best friends." And yet we were. That was my education at age 10 that I brought back to Savannah, Georgia, where I mostly grew up. And when I shared it with my homeroom class, because they were all so upset about all that was going on to integrate our schools, and they were scared to death of what was going to happen, I stood up and said, "Hey, guys, don't worry about it. It doesn't rub off."
Thank you very much.
Rana Bazzini. On deck is Julie London.
Good afternoon. My name is Rana Bazzini, and I am a resident of Sarasota. I was watching the workshop this morning. I love watching them because it looks like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I was most interested in the application of the charter school, and I kind of went back to the last time that we had this before the board, and the board had it within its priority or within its premise that it had the power to decide whether or not the charter would be accepted, and it was turned down. Looking at what's happening now, Tallahassee has come down with another taking the power away from the local groups, because even though you can decide whether or not to accept this application, it's kind of like an exercise in futility because the ultimate decision is not going to be in your hands. That aside, I thought it was a rather pathetic presentation. I absolutely agreed with Mr. Enos that you had, Mr. Edwards, that you had very little time to overview what was going on, and that Mr. Enos asked why they didn't have a PowerPoint or explain what they were all about. So hopefully, because I know the ramifications of your denying that application, because it really isn't in your power, but sometimes we have to make a decision that even though it's the right decision, the ramifications might not be what we would wish. So the power was with you, not exactly, and I just enjoy watching the workshops because I like to see you guys doing what you're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Logan and then Logan Lopez.
Hi, it's Julie London. Since the board speaks glowingly of customer service, I thought you should know that I did a small survey on social media about which board member consistently answers their emails. And the winner is Shirley Brown. If you want less people showing up to the meetings, please answer your email so constituents know that they are heard. I'm going to bullet point this. First, I want to acknowledge Tim Enos for his consistency in following laws. We saw the officers rushing to his seat on the board for leadership at the last meeting. His quick decision-making or consulting was impressive in not having officers remove a speaker. We may not like how he cites statutes regarding writing to the governor, but we can count on Enos to not buck the system, and he will do everything by the book. Some bemoan that your job is hard. We know it is, but I'm still going to call out the fact that any board member who can state that books aren't being banned is beyond the pale for anyone with a higher education. I will be sending that board member an email about the danger of not trusting the cornerstones of our democracy, including journalism. Every newspaper in the country states that Florida leads the country in book bans. If we believe a few politicians over the best journalistic minds and talents in the United States, then we may as well have state-run media. It's disappointing and shocking to hear anyone serving on any school board to state that books haven't been banned. The saving grace is that this same board member, and I'm a fan of hers, voted against Vermillion, knowing that it went against every student every day. For that, we're grateful. I wrote to all of you regarding American oversight of Washington, D.C., putting in a request for all phone, email transmissions sent or received from Bridget Ziegler. Can you elaborate on this? Perhaps all of this talk about a school board member resigning might just take care of itself. To close, if someone can't show their face in public or a classroom without distraction, how can they think they can effectively be part of any board? This isn't a hot-button issue because disqualifying qualities that display weak leadership and sets bad examples doesn't go away. This is compounded by optics of a completely unaware and unrepentant person who, unlike Travis Kelce, can't say, "This was unacceptable, I'm sorry." Thanks to the Baranchik Foundation. Thank you, Superintendent Connor. Sarasota deserves to vote a capable replacement.
Thank you, ma'am.
in.
Thank you.
Logan Lopez, on deck, Richard Stammer.
Hello, my name is Logan Lopez, and I'm a former student of Sarasota Schools. I am here today to talk about item number 30, the school referendum and how it harms student health. This referendum goes towards paying for a 30-minute extension of the school day, which was instituted to put Sarasota on par with China, India, and Japan, in the words of former Superintendent Gary Norris. Yet now we see the repercussions of putting so much pressure on students and not prioritizing their rest. It is detrimental to student achievement. When split up for a normal 7-period day, it adds less than 5 minutes of instructional time to each class. This was a political move to sell a tax that was no longer needed, that was originally to cover a budget shortfall that no longer exists, to curry favor with SCTA and get them on board with this idea, when they previously called out the school board on responsible budgeting in the 1994 referendum. When the schedule change was made, many raised concern about how early start times were, and Frank Kovac said it would be addressed, but this board never returned to fix it. I come today asking for a compromise, remove the harmful extension, and give our students back their 30 minutes to sleep. Be with their family, do homework, or participate in extracurriculars. I am the chairman of Sarasota for Smarter Property Taxes, the political committee that opposed the school referendum in the previous renewal election. If this unnecessary extension is not removed, I will oppose the tax for this general election, where there will be more voices present than just the special interests that were voting in the previous renewals. It may very well be like the referendum that was defeated in July of 2000. Let us meet in the middle and work towards helping students, first and foremost, and reverse the damage that was done in 2006. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Richard Stammer, and then John Hervig.
Good afternoon. I'm Richard Stammer. I've been here before. I'm a 21-year resident of Sarasota and retired in child welfare from the state of Maryland and Florida. I'm also, among the many hats I wear, I also wear one. I'm a member of the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. And our first principle is the belief in the inherent dignity and worth of every human being. And I know that applies to everybody in this room and beyond. And I encourage everyone here to continue to join me in that belief. I also want to thank Superintendent Connor. I was thrilled to hear, sir, about the African American History Task Force partnering with OSA. I'm very pleased about that, and I look forward to it. I wish I could join the board if I could find the time, but thank you again for doing that. I also want to get my vote in not to approve the Charter School USA Classical School. I'm a strong believer in public education. I have nothing against charter schools, but we've already had one charter school that you all voted against, and I don't want this Vermillion, and I don't want the same thing with this charter school. I was disappointed to hear that you apparently voted to contract with the Grand Union University and 4-3 Education, a nonprofit that acquires substantial assets of the University of Phoenix. Correct me if I'm wrong in this. I have been told that they were fined $37.7 million by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, FSA. That FSA investigation found that GCU lied to more than 7,500 students about the cost of its doctoral programs over several years. They also falsely advertised a lower cost than what 98% of the students ended up paying to complete certain doctoral programs. And also, the for-profit online University of Phoenix was a subject of actions by the Federal Trade Commission. Students were deceived by the for-profit university. The graduation rates were abysmal, and the Department of Education forgave almost $37 million in federal loans for over 1,200 students that were affected by the school's deceptive practices. Sorry, this sounds like another university that maybe many of us are familiar with, Trump University. That's all I'd like to say today, but I wish you continue. Thank you for your efforts, both Superintendent Connor and the board.
Thank you.
John Hervig, followed by Julie Forestier.
Good afternoon, Superintendent Connor and board members. I am John Hervig, a former Sarasota County school teacher. I know that you have appointees when there are empty school board seats. The appointee from the present governor. And at one time, we had the situation here in this school where we needed a new member, needed to fill a seat, and then Governor Scott decided to appoint Ms. Ziegler. We know that DeSantis personally campaigned for you in your last election. But given the recent revelations which exposed the hypocrisy in your false front moral authority on the parental rights issue, why do you stay? Why do you choose to sit here? Why so many of the community plead with you? Please salvage the remnants of your dignity and resign. Do you actually support public education? Are your children attending Sarasota public schools? Are your interests and ambitions clearly aligned with school privatization? They tell us a confusing story. And this is what this is all about. It's about the story you leave behind. Do you stay because there's going to be some kind of payoff, financial or otherwise, by staying? Are you sticking it out in our public schools until July 22nd, when DeSantis can swoop in and anoint a replacement of his choosing, unelected by the citizens? Weigh the cost of staying on the school board. Your position here is all about children. Every day, with their behavior, every parent writes a chapter in their own child's life story. Someday, sooner than you think, young people of your life are going to be the same age as the students who speak out here. When that time comes, will you have the parental credibility necessary to answer their questions? And will you honestly expect them to respect your opinions and advice? Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Forestier. On deck is Xander Moritz.
Welcome, Mrs. Forestier.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Forrester, and once again, it's hard to know where to start. I know it has been said by many of you at one point or another that you don't have a choice as to how the harmful policies from Tallahassee are being implemented. Mrs. Ziegler, you said last month that the teacher retention problem is an everywhere in the U.S. problem, not a Sarasota problem. I'm here to tell you that that is a lie. That is a cowardly cop-out. You do have a choice. You have a choice for how you choose to implement and respond to those policies. You have a choice for what kind of school district you want to create. You have a choice for what kind of environment you want your teachers and your students to work and to learn in. You have a choice if Sarasota will continue to maintain its A-rated school district, its A rating, and be a district where students and teachers can thrive despite the hostile policies being waged against teachers and students in the Florida legislature. I was reading in an article a couple weeks ago about how, in the face of the vague, albeit threatening, policies coming out of Tallahassee, some school districts have removed hundreds of titles from their school bookshelves, while others haven't removed any. This is a perfect example of how we, as a school district, can choose how we respond to legislation. I can tell you an A-rated school district should be one in which the teachers aren't afraid of losing their jobs or going to prison for having the books they've been using to teach kids for years on their shelves. It's sad that our teachers are on the front lines of this culture war. As our school board members, you are the people who are tasked with defending our frontline soldiers. Please defend our teachers so they can continue to create a safe, high-achieving environment that all students can thrive in. And I just have to say, Mrs. Ziegler, you do not have any children in the Sarasota County School District. If you don't trust the school district that you represent to educate your kids, why are you working for the school district? If you don't have any skin in the game, as the saying goes, then why are you controlling the game? The way you have refused to do what is best for this district and step down makes the answer resoundingly clear. You are using this position as a political platform. The tide is turning, not just in Sarasota, but nationally too. One good thing that has come out of Mrs. Ziegler not stepping down is you are giving the rest of us a platform on which to speak. This has enabled me to have conversation with Republican moms at my kids' preschool about all of the egregious things that you and your Moms for Liberty cronies have done, which means that come this August in Sarasota and November around this country, people are going to show up and vote all of the anti-public education politicians out, including you, Mrs. Rose. Please, everyone, get your vote by mail ballots and vote in August. Thank you.
Thank you.
Xander Moritz, followed by Sandy Keenan.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bridget, over the last several meetings, past and present, Sarasota County high school students who have studied directly under your harmful leadership have called for you to resign. They've spoken about your lies and about how you've worked to ban books behind our backs. Not one person who has been a student in Sarasota County schools while you have been a board member has spoken in your defense. Not one person who has experienced Bridget Ziegler's leadership has anything good to say about it. We need to care that not one single student in this district has come up to speak in favor of Bridget Ziegler, but dozens of your students have come here to ask you to leave. We need to trust that our students are smart, capable human beings who can make observations about the environment they are in Monday through Friday. Their observation is that Bridget Ziegler has used her public platform to harass queer and trans people, so her trans and queer students feel unsafe because she's still here. So Bridget, if you care about every student like you say, then you have to resign and move on, because some of the students that make up every student are telling you that your presence here is damaging. The very idea that someone like you can say and do terrible things while still remaining in a position of power against the will of the people is contrary to democracy, and it's a bad vibe. Only 1/3 of Sarasota voted in the last school board election, so to Chairwoman Rose, I would think deeply about the conversations occurring in and around your boardroom and what is going to motivate voters this year. You are a teacher. You can feel the vibe. We need a leader. We need action. Quick shout out to Robin Marinelli. Our students did take your advice, and they went to the Capitol today, and they've enjoyed some other awesome people to speak to our representatives at Tallahassee about what's going on here and about how Bridget Ziegler is abusing the students of Sarasota. Also, if you're going to ask us to write, you have to answer our letters. Big shout out to that one father who's been here for like 4 meetings in a row trying to get an answer about a sports team, and shout out to all of the other speakers who have not heard anything about a letter to the governor. This movement is growing, this movement is not slowing down, and it's going to end with a school board that represents the needs, the interests, and the people of Sarasota. Also, congrats to the student rep on getting it to West Point. That's awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Moritz.
Sandy Keenan, followed by Peggy Mormon.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Sandy Keenan, and I'm the proud grandmother of 3 wonderful kids who attend Sarasota schools. What I want to focus on today is how I can't even begin to wrap my head around how you, Bridget, can sit up there and listen to all that is being said to you and show little or no emotion and continue to show up at every meeting and act like nothing is happening. Business as usual, right? The negative effect that you, Ms. Ziegler, have had on this board and the reputation of Sarasota on a local, national, and international level have caused great concern and embarrassment for all who live here. So how do you do it? I mean, how do you keep listening to the things that people are being said to you? I find it rather scary. If I were you, and with all that you have done and admitted to, I would not be able to get up and look at myself in the mirror, let alone sit there with a smug look on my face for hours. Is it that you really think you did nothing wrong? Have you absolutely no conscience? And if you sit there long enough, this will eventually all go away? Do you sit there thinking about other things and not even listening to what is being said? Maybe you go to your happy place, wherever that may be, like they tell you to do when you're having troubles or getting a cavity filled. Everyone makes mistakes in life. The problem is when you let your narcissistic tendencies take over and you just can't admit that you were wrong and that your actions are having a tremendously negative effect on everyone around you, including this board. The Sarasota Code of Professional Conduct states, and I quote, "Aware of the importance of maintaining the respect and confidence of one's peers, of students, of parents, and other members of the community. The employee will strive to achieve and sustain the highest degree of ethical conduct," end quote. Does that apply to you, Bridget? Are you living by those words? Were you thinking of such things when you were conducting yourself in certain personal situations that have bled into the public eye, or perhaps when you helped to create what is now labeled a hate group? I feel bad for your family and what they must have endured throughout all of this, and will continue to carry with them the rest of their lives, especially your children. But the best course of action in healing is that mistakes are forgivable if one has the courage to admit them and take steps to let yourself and others move on. Good parents teach their children by example. They show them how to love, be kind, show respect for others, and have good values. We should all maintain those traits as we grow and conduct ourselves throughout life. Bridget, it's time to show respect for all around you, your family, fellow board members, parents, teachers, children, and for the overall good of the Sarasota community. You need to remove yourself from this board and the distraction that you are, and let us return to the business of maintaining a high-quality school district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peggy Moorman, and then Nancy Harris. And Ms. Moorman, if I would have you sign your card as an acknowledgement of the policy.
Where?
I have it right here. I'll have the officer bring it to you.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Didn't bring my reading glasses.
Welcome.
Thank you. I've been here before. I always carry a sign saying I'm proud of my trans grandson, but my daughter reminded me that we have so many other people I could be proud of. So I brought books last time. I would love to be able to talk only about reading. As I told you last time, this method, I'll give it to the officer. They can give it to you. You've probably been fighting over the copies I brought last time. But here's two more. Hard to keep them in stock. This method is a very cheap method. All of your special ed teachers will know what I mean by phoneme-based. Any child with an IQ over 80 can pretty much get to grade level with 12 hours of tutoring. Anyway, Mrs. Ziegler, I wish you would leave. I'm not going anywhere, and I doubt most of us are. I think it's sad that these meetings are consumed with this when, honestly, we do have 1 in 10 of our children who don't graduate. This is big. I wanted to talk, I have so many things I want to talk about, but I think I'll just talk about anxiety. Because I think we all feel it these days. This has been increasing for years, and we're not going to pretend the world isn't on fire. But children feel this from the get-go. They feel anxiety when they can't run fast. They feel anxiety if they're shorter or taller than everybody else. They feel anxiety if reading is hard for them. They feel anxiety if they're different. I taught for years and years in a church school, a choir school, the most diverse, second most diverse school in my city. And our head of school was lesbian, married to her wife. I taught their son, who was a little bit rowdy. And I don't think anybody ever thought twice about differentness and about gay, trans, lesbian, bi, anything. I did realize I was in a kind of paradise situation with this school. You know, we were a Christian school. We had an endless Seder, perfectly appropriate for a Seder. We had the most extraordinary Kwanzaa celebration every year. I can sing the verses of the African American national anthem. I was a little bit, never mind. I just want to say that anytime you are a different sort of person, you know, look at me, I'm white, I'm smart, I'm educated, I was cute when I was young. People like me have all the privilege in the world. I was coordinated, whatever. When you have all of that going for you, you don't realize that kids suffer so much whenever they're different from anybody else. So any policy that points out differences, any policy that objects
Thank you,
to them,
ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for signing. Appreciate it.
Next up is Nancy Harris, followed by Liz Barker.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Superintendent and Board of Education members. I want to thank you for showcasing all the school activities in honoring Black History Month. As we commemorate Black History Month, the Minnesota Remembers Project will be dedicating the historical marker at the Fruitville Unitarian Universalist campus, honoring the 6 known victims of racial terror lynchings in Sarasota and Manatee. Minnesota Remembers will be live streaming that dedication on Saturday, February 24th at 11 a.m. at www.minnesotaremembers.org. I hope that the Board of Education will tune in and honor the victims of this terrible part of our American history. Also, I would like to thank the full board for not agreeing with Chairman Rose, who at the last board meeting attempted to reduce public participation by 1/3. And in support of the First Amendment of the Constitution, I would like to quote it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble and to partition the government of which you are part for a redress of grievances. So I really appreciate your respectful allowance for each of us to have 3 full minutes to address the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Liz Barker, followed by Lisa Scher.
Welcome.
Thank you. Superintendent Connor, board members, good afternoon. I'm Liz Barker, mom of 4 kids in Sarasota County Public Schools, former school psychologist, president of the PTO at Lakeview Elementary School, and candidate for school board. Over and over again, I hear from fellow parents that they are very concerned about book bans, both in the overall attitude in the state legislature, but really how things look here in our schools. And yes, it is true that no books have been formally banned here in Sarasota, but it is also undeniably true that there are books that once sat on our shelves that no longer do. How does that happen? It happens because this board failed to take clear leadership, and the result is fear and self-censorship. This has impacted my family personally. At the beginning of this school year, my daughter's 7th grade civics class got permission from parents to use the Upfront magazine by the New York Times as a resource to analyze current events. Although this resource is well respected, it had been used for several years, the administration decided to pull the magazine. Why? It was simply too risky. When running the book fair at Lakeview Elementary this year, one of our parent volunteers declined a collection of diverse books after speaking with our media specialist. Why? Too risky. Teachers were afraid to use their scholastic dollars to purchase books for their classroom libraries because it was just too risky. And parents aren't the only ones now who think things have gone too far. Governor DeSantis recently supported a proposed bill that would fine people who have unsuccessfully challenged books too often. This is an admission that the law is, in fact, being used to try to remove books that should be on our shelves and is causing a huge burden on our staff, both in time and money. It highlights how little sense it makes for one person to have the ability to challenge a book for everyone else. I should decide what my children read, not another parent. And random folks from the community certainly shouldn't be curating our library shelves. Our school staff, some even with degrees in library science, are well able to find age-appropriate, curriculum-enriching books, but they need to know that they are fully backed by this board to do so. This is a system that's worked for a long time before we played politics with our children's education. This environment of fear has caused nothing but chaos and wasted our tax dollars, and it's time for this board to step up and show some leadership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Scher, followed by Con Nicholas.
Hi, my name is Lisa Scher. I'm one of the co-founders of Support Our Schools and a resident of Sarasota County. I had the honor and privilege today to sit through the workshop, and I want to say I thought it was excellent in many respects. It was a particularly poor showing by Charter School USA, and I thank you, Mr. Enos, for pointing out the fact that they didn't even bother to come up with a presentation. Mrs. Marinelli, your questions were spot on, and particularly the one about the fact that they don't have anywhere to put their school if things don't go right for the other classical academy to move out of there. In any case, as a recovering international tax attorney, I understand the biggest issue that I have with this Charter Schools USA application is that this is a for-profit charter school. The whole goal is to turn a profit and get it from the nonprofit entity that is actually the one that runs the school, if you will, that the kids, teachers, et cetera, and shove it back through transfer pricing either into a building that they're leasing, through management services, et cetera, et cetera. We went through all of this when we did the Welland Park thing. Now, you know, I understand that your hands are somewhat bound by the fact that the Board of Education in its eminent wisdom has taken the decision-making away from local. But you know what? If we hadn't wasted the $40,000 on the needless redistricting, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we spent on getting rid of the previous superintendent, we might be able to afford to do the right thing and fight this. Second thing I'd like to speak about is you, Mrs. Ziegler. We're back again. If you haven't figured it out already, maybe you need to think about it again. We're not going anywhere. Penridge should mean something to all of you. Penridge is the district where Vermillion was able to sneak in under the wire. We were fortunate we stopped it here in Sarasota. But I think you all know what happened up there in Penridge. The board was flipped. And a lot of it was due to national interest. Well, those national interest, if you've been out in front of the building, you've seen the traveling truck, which unfortunately doesn't have baby killers on it. But that truck is the harbinger of things to come, Mrs. Ziegler. We're not going anywhere. You need to resign. And for those who seem to think that somebody who stands up to a bully is also a bully, the reality of the situation is the person that stands up to the bully is the person that stands up to the bully who bullies other people. And that's what you've done. That's what you've done. You've heard the kids. Forget about me, I'm an old lady. Listen to what the kids are saying. These are students.
Thank you.
Con Nicholas, followed by Sandy Armstrong.
Good afternoon. My name's Con Nicholas. I was a high school teacher in Sarasota for almost 40 years, 5 years at Cardinal Mooney and 34 at Riverview. So I have a vested interest in the Sarasota County schools, and I'm really disappointed with the turmoil in our district, specifically this school board. This board has become a national punchline, and the reason for all of this controversy and embarrassment falls into the lap of one person, Mrs. Ziegler. And I feel bad for you, Bridget. I know this must be hard for you and your family. Let me emphasize that all this negative attention has nothing to do with Mrs. Ziegler's personal life. Bridget, like everyone else, should be free to live her personal life however she wants. So the scandal that she's embroiled in is not why we're here. We're here because she's become a distraction, and she brought it all on herself. Mrs. Ziegler, you wore a T-shirt with the words, "Real women aren't men," and you posted it on your social media site. I'm sorry, but with all due respect, for a board member to post something like that is, let's just say, divisive. Your children don't go to public school, and that's okay. But why are you trying to so drastically change our A-rated school district, always A-rated school district, if you're sending your kids to private school and getting voucher money to send them there? Again, it's 100% fine that you send your kids to whatever school you want. As board chair, Bridget, you allowed some mom for liberty to insult your fellow board member, Tom Edwards, with homophobic slurs and blatant lies without doing anything about it. I won't repeat the vile things she said, but that should not have been allowed. Of course, everybody knows about the scandal that put your anti-gay rhetoric / hypocrisy out there for everyone to see. Just know that hypocrisy is a form of lying. Finally, I have an email where you state to another school administrator, we know what's right, and if someone wants to challenge us, I say bring it on. Come on, bring it on. Not a great look for a school board member. Please, Bridget, as Xander said at a previous meeting, it's never too late to do the right thing. Please voluntarily step down. Thank you.
Sandy Armstrong, then Shannon Clement.
Welcome, Mrs. Armstrong.
Well, first of all, I want to say to the superintendent, it sounds very exciting what y'all did with African American history so far, and I'm very interested in seeing what happens with ASALA and your new committee. And I hope that the, stop woke stuff doesn't get in the way of our educating our kids. As a citizen, I don't quite understand how it sounds like from the media, and maybe I got the wrong impression, that if somebody says, oh, I feel bad as a white girl hearing what happened to black people, that we can't do it. So maybe at another meeting you could explain how that gets worked out so that we can get true history here, because I think it's wonderful that we're heading in that direction. I want to talk again, what I talk about a lot, is if kids don't feel like they belong as who they are and who they identify as, they're traumatized. It's as simple as that. It means they don't feel safe. And if a student doesn't feel seen as who they are or who their parents are, we must find a way to address that. And I want to know more about how you all are going to address that with the, quote, don't say gay laws. How are we going to address that? Where children can't be called by the pronoun and the orientation that they and their parents agree that they have. Because then they're subject to being bullied and to feel like, again, they're traumatized on the inside. And as we know, many of these children are more likely to attempt and even complete suicide. And none of you, I know, want that on your hearts, and neither do we. So we need to find a way to support students and families for the diversity, not duplicity that denigrates and humiliates. And that happens without intimidation and fear. Just want to add, I agree that we need to not add USA classical charter schools. We need to not do that. Let's save our taxpayer money for the public schools, my gosh. And again, I want to ask the rest of you board to follow what Mr. Edwards suggested and to send a letter to the governor to dismiss or ask Mrs. Ziegler to resign. If you voted for it, you should be strong enough and have enough integrity to send this letter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Shannon Clement, and then India Miller.
Welcome, Mrs. Clement.
Good afternoon, all. Shannon Clement, mother of a child currently enrolled in our public ed system. I actually wrote this prior to the previous board meeting, which I unfortunately was unable to attend, but the sentiments are still apropos, and I intend and hope moving forward to not feel the need to address this any longer. I have not, to date, demanded or asked for Mrs. Ziegler's resignation. I've mentioned it in previous comments that I can admire her resilience, but I often wonder if it's turned to hubris, and mind you, I do not consider you a victim. We reap what we sow, and you have planted far too many seeds of discord. For anyone, if you insist on staying, though, for anyone to claim that the hypocrisy shown isn't relevant to the business of the board is folly, as it directly calls into question the efficacy of a board member's ability to productively adapt, interpret, and implement policy that affects the demographics to which they have both notoriously targeted and simultaneously participated in. It also is calls into question a question of trust. All behavior is a form of communication, and stating the hypocritical behavior only happened once is the equivalent of telling a law enforcement officer you've only had 2 drinks. I'd wager a few of us in this room, though, know what the feeling is to be essentially betrayed by somebody that we should be able to unequivocally trust. the doubt with every word said and every word previously spoken that replays itself over and over again in your brain. The loneliness, the heartbreak, the anger, the fear and the uncertainty for the future of your family, it can all be extremely difficult to comprehend, especially in the quiet moments. And you think to yourself, is this really the life that I wanted? But I realized I had to feel that for you. In spite of everything you have spearheaded and championed, I had to feel that way for you, because to consider for even a moment that you might not feel the same through all of this would imply that you were fully aware of every harm that's been committed, and in that complicitness would be devoid of humanity. If you can't tell, the severity of that consideration is something I'm still wrestling with. Now, we do indeed have a number of things that we need to move forward on, but to not take responsibility for any missteps or prior transgressions, and most of you up there hoping that the elephant in the room is just going to miraculously disappear, is sheer cowardice. I wouldn't expect it in this forum, but there are always ways to start rectifying wrongs. And as many people have already said, it is never too late to begin doing the right thing. I ask that you show me my empathy hasn't been misplaced, and to use a few lines from the show Hamilton, history has its eyes on you, and who tells your story when you're gone? Make no mistake, there are indeed numerous eyes watching, and some of them matter significantly more than others.
Thank you.
India Miller, and then Paulina Testerman.
Welcome.
Hello again. I'm India Miller. Thanks for having me. And I'm here because Bridget is still here, and I don't know why she's still here. I love the student representatives you have come in. That's what it's all about, truly. I love that the one today spoke about Resilient Retreat, where I go, where I actually donate money to, because I have PTSD from being attacked by a transphobic, guy that wanted to kill me because of hateful rhetoric that some of you people are really spreading out there. My partner also has PTSD from combat in Afghanistan and has actually a combat medic badge for saving lives under fire. He's transgender. Neither one of us can use a bathroom here, even though you care about us as citizens. You don't have a gender-neutral bathroom, so both of our options are to go to prison, him to women's, me to men's. Do you really mean what you say? Bridget would be fired anywhere but here. She'd be managed out. She'd be moved on. You would go. It's insane that you're here. Any corporation would get rid of you. Another one of your students talked about wanting to be a CEO and be prepared for the real world. As a former COO for a Wall Street firm and a global executive in higher education for the world's largest public education company, you are not preparing our students for reality. People are going to say gay, they're going to say trans, they're going to work with gay people, they're going to work under gay people, they're going to manage gay people. Let's grow up. Stop being a bully. Wearing a t-shirt that says real women aren't men is clearly mocking transgender people. And then you lied about it and said it was because of transgender athletes, which is really controversial and gets you a lot of headlines. I get that. We need to have important discussions about that. But you did it in response to a beer ad. Let's be honest. You should be fired because you lied. You should crawl away in embarrassment because of who you are. You're projecting your own hatred and shame of who you are. What a dismal turnout you've become onto all of us. And it breaks my heart because I think you're probably just an okay person, probably. I don't know. But just really lost and misguided. But kids are going to die because of it, and I'm not here to stand by it. Our taxpayers pay you $16,000 a year to specifically not send your kids to our public schools. We pay your mother-in-law $8,000 per student to transfer them out of our public school into her Christian school. These are your policies. Why people are not outraged, I don't know. Where the pitchforks are, I don't know. Where the torches are, I don't get why people aren't here. But I'm here. And I'm going to keep coming here, and I'm going to keep trying to get people to pay attention. Do we teach Black history? Yes, but we teach it because you failed at bringing Vermillion in to teach that slaves benefited from slavery. That's who you are as a human being. Christ-like values.
Paulina Testerman, and then Bill Hayes.
Welcome, Mrs. Testerman.
Good afternoon. My name is Paulina Testerman, and at the last school board meeting, my 3-minute speech was turned into a 20-minute circus because our board chair, Karen Rose, doesn't know the rules for speakers. The good news for Mrs. Rose is that I had read the policies and procedures in advance, and I was not going to cower to her bullying. I'm going to now read the Sarasota School Board Governance and Organization, Chapter 2.22, and I want the board and the audience to listen carefully and tell me where it mentions personal attacks. Quote, speakers addressing the school board shall not make remarks which are irrelevant to the business of the school board or which are abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, or otherwise of a disorderly nature. Did anybody hear anything mentioned about personal attacks? Because I didn't. The reason why is because neither the Sarasota County School policies nor the procedures mention anything about personal attacks. Mrs. Rose is simply making up the rules as she goes along. It doesn't really matter, because even if the language was in the policies and procedures, I didn't personally attack anyone. The board chair confuses being held accountable with personally attacking a board member. So she muted my microphone and refused to allow me to speak. Mrs. Rose, since taking over the role of board chair, I have watched you regularly interrupting and censoring our speakers. That ends today, Mrs. Rose. While I appreciate the fact that you are trying to rebrand this board, something desperately needed, and aiming for decorum and respect in these chambers, it is vital that you understand that the decorum and respect are always earned and never demanded. I need to make sure that you hear the next part loud and clear, Mrs. Rose. If you continue to censor public comments, the speakers are prepared to file a discrimination complaint with the Federal Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. I do not want to do that. Filing formal complaints against our district is a waste of time and money. Every dollar spent on an attorney to defend this board is a dollar taken out of the pockets of our teachers and our students. This is not a threat. I am, in fact, desperately trying to help you. I'm trying to make sure that you, Mrs. Rose, don't get the board sued due to your obvious lack of knowledge. Lastly, the public needs to know that it is this board's responsibility to provide an agenda for all school board meetings and workshops 7 days in advance. Instead, this board provides a skeleton agenda, and then days later, well past 7-day requirement, the agenda has sources and documentations added. This happens regularly and happened yet again this week with regard to the Classical Academy Charter Review. The agenda was in fact properly posted 7 days in advance, good job, but the contracts and supporting documentation weren't properly attached until 2 days ago. Many of us can't help but think that this is intentional. If you want the public to trust you, start by doing your job and stop being so sneaky. This August 20th, Sarasota County voters will have an opportunity to right this ship by voting to replace Board Chair Karen Rose. I will be voting for Liz Barker because I'm tired of this circus.
Thank you very much.
Bill Hayes, and then Tamara Solem.
Hi, I'm Bill Hayes, and I'm here just really to kind of support the people that are around and to kind of make sure that everybody is aware of the different situations that each of the board members bring to the decision-making process. And to ask that when you're making those decisions, that any kind of personal opinions, any kind of morals that you may have, the way you were brought up may or may not be exactly right. I'm brought up in a different area of the United States. Somebody else is brought up in a different area. People's beliefs are different. You have to go ahead and respect people for who they are. And people change. But just basically that the way that anybody is going to parent may not be the way I'm going to parent. I did especially like the Black History Month, and I was very concerned about what was going on with that. And when we look around our schools, we're going to find in every town one school district that is predominantly black and the rest of them are not. You can look around this room right now. I mean, everybody on the board and everybody in the room, how many black people are here? So if we don't educate the people like myself and people in the room that don't interact and have not come to appreciate all of the things that they've had to put up with, which is terrible, then it's an absolute waste. But I appreciate it, and I think that will go a long way. And it won't stop there. It can move on to different areas. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tamara Solom, and then Elizabeth Bornstein.
It's Tamara Solom. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. First, I'm here today to express my support of parental rights. Every parent should have the right to make decisions about his or her child's education. What I don't believe in is that taxpayer dollars should be used to subsidize private or charter schools like the for-profit Charter Schools USA, which has an application currently being considered by this board. We are experiencing a teacher hiring freeze due to a loss of students in our public schools, and the money being taken away from our A school district is being funneled into these for-profit charter schools by way of school vouchers. We already have a Classical Academy charter school which follows the philosophy of the Hillsdale model. In addition, the Classical Academy is currently in a dispute with the residential community over adding multiple portable buildings for which the land is not permitted. So why are we considering another such charter school to be constructed in our county? Second, Governor DeSantis is backpedaling on House Bill 1069 that he signed into law in May of 2023 due to the abundance of ridiculous book challenges that were mounted by bad actors across this state. These book bans have not been successful. Last year, I saw firsthand as a resource teacher a mostly emptied school library due to the librarian not getting enough assistance to scan or vet the books. There were textbooks that were ordered but not unpacked because no one knew if they were approved. Can you imagine what that year was like and the education lost to these children? Classrooms at my Title I school were void of most reading material, but in schools with lots of parent volunteers, classrooms had shelves filled with books. This law has created confusion and profound inequity throughout our district and across the state. Finally, despite the community and her colleagues calling on Ms. Ziegler to resign, she seems determined to remain on this board. I have stated in letters both to the school board and the Sarasota Herald Tribune that I believe her hypocrisy is negatively impacting our students in our community, and her priorities have been at odds with protecting a safe environment for equitable learning. Zara Berry, an acquaintance of Ms. Ziegler, was recently quoted in an article in the Daily Beast. She stated that she was, quote, heartbroken and fearful over the impact Bridget has had on the amazing young people in Sarasota who deserve so badly to live and thrive and be celebrated in one of the most formative seasons of life. And that, quote, witnessing Bridget's descent into dangerously conservative and wildly homophobic rhetoric felt extremely out of alignment with the sparkly, seemingly open-minded woman I believe rubbed elbows with me I rubbed elbows with in my 20s. To Ms. Ziegler, whatever you believed in as a hopeful young woman with those friends in the fashion industry as you navigated a more carefree, creative, less encumbered life, I truly hope you can access again. I can't imagine being so beholden to these external forces that you would sacrifice your own mental well-being and that of your family. I hope you will conscientiously consider how to choose to move forward as a board
Thank you,
member
ma'am.
and a
Thank you.
Elizabeth Bornstein, followed by Beck Lane.
Board members, board attorney, I'm Elizabeth Bornstein. I'm a taxpayer. I'm most importantly a parent of a student in the district, a level 2 volunteer for 7 years. I'm here in support of public education, and I'm here once again as a concerned and involved parent to help hold the space for those parents, grandparents, and students who are unable to attend and reluctant to attend. I always look for the good stuff. My child's doing really well at school. It's because of the teachers, the staff, and the administration there. And I'm grateful to see those metal detectors again. I'm very curious when we're going to start seeing them in the schools. Last time I spoke about safety, due to the Crumbly verdict that was read, and then, a week later, 9 children were shot at the Kansas City Super Bowl parade, 6 to 15 years old. Two juveniles were involved. I really appreciate the efforts of our school resource officers. They're amazing, and the school's police really there for our safety. Thank you. It eases only some of the worry for future incidents of violence that will occur. Cheryl Richardson just said, just because some people are fueled by drama doesn't mean you have to attend the performance. Yet I feel I have to be here. Drama is the reality here, yet our focus should be on education, learning, and the development of our children. Kudos, Superintendent, for the African American History Task Force in collaboration with the SALA. Wonderful initiative. We need to focus on the education and learning and development of our children. Sarasota County schools are at risk. HB1, the voucher program, already at work to dismantle our A-rated schools by moving public education funds around like a shell game in the name of privatization. Unfortunately, today's workshop item on the classical prep charter application, just some of the same shady, behavior that we've seen here ongoing. Why isn't this information noticed properly? Why can't we get in the sunshine? Thank you, Board, for trying to rise above it. I know that you were trying. It was evident. Yet, I don't have enough time to watch these work sessions. I would really ask you to do the board workshops on the week off of the board meeting. So those of us parents, working parents, grandparents, students have a time to study the workshop topics, to really get into the meat of the matter and not just come to board meetings when things are voted on that we don't know a lot about. I want to be involved. I want to be active. I want to represent my student and other students and families. Let's help us learn what's going on. Even minutes noticed a week in advance for us to read them, something. Just give us something, a little bone. It's just, let's focus on what's important, right? Every student, every day. Trust, transparency, accountability, including honesty and humility, must be the foundation of our schools to survive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beck Lane, followed by Thomas Babbitts.
I'm a little bit more prepared than I was last month. I do have my chest binder on, and to be clear, because I wasn't last time, I wear a chest binder because I have never felt comfortable showing off my chest. I've never been comfortable. But you, Bridget, and Ron DeSantis and your ilk got me to buy one, and actually got friends to buy some for me. So now I wear them proudly. I'm not wearing a bow tie today, but because I wear them, I like wearing them at night. So the next meeting I'll wear one. Anywho, Bridget, you are a stain on Sarasota, an absolute stain. But since you clearly are not beginning to comprehend what the majority of Sarasota is telling you, I brought a visual aid. Bridget, your lies, your actions, and your want for power and fame have brought nothing but bigots out of the woodwork. Bigots to threaten and harass the rest of Sarasota. And at this point, the bigots are your only supporters. I want you to understand bigotry is your legacy. But bigotry is the legacy you have tasked your family with and your future generations with. It's also the legacy you've tasked your fellow Republican board members with sharing. I'm guessing your bigotry and selfishness and your friends' bigotry hasn't brought you the power you had actually hoped for. It hasn't culminated in mass love and adoration. It's brought nothing but fear, anger, chaos, hysteria. That's all you've brought. And every month that you sit there, it gets worse and worse. And I don't care how worse it gets for you. It gets worse for the entire community. Bridget, you have nothing left. And you have nowhere to go at this point but home. Go home. Take your bigotry, your hatred, and your chaos, and go home. The end.
Thomas Babbitts, followed by, I'm not sure if we can, William DeBrol, E.
Welcome, Mr. Babbitts.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Connor. My name is Thomas Babbitts. I'm Sarasota resident, taxpayer, and voter. I'd like to start by saying people usually don't pay attention to what the county officials are doing when everything appears to be fine. When the taxes are skyrocketing and children are indoctrinated instead of educated at school, the school board asks for even more of the taxpayers' money, we start paying attention. I watched a few meetings online and I attended the last school board meeting in person to see what's going on here. As a taxpayer in this county and a manager with close to 40 years of experience in managing budgets of multi-million-dollar projects, I have to say that there is much room for improvement here. The meeting should be productive and provide for suggested solutions. In order to help, I propose the following improvements for your consideration, because I don't know how you can exist running this kind of meetings. I think only the residents of Sarasota County and parents of Sarasota County school children should be allowed to speak at the Sarasota County School Board meetings. This would eliminate wasted time. A photo ID should be presented by everyone who wants to speak at these meetings. Speakers should be allowed to speak only about the meeting agenda, our school budget and programs related to the schools in our county. The time to speak should be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. This meeting could be 1 hour shorter if there are 60 speakers, which is a number close to the actual numbers of speakers in the last 3 meetings. The public comments from citizens should be moved to the end of the meeting so you can productively work and older people don't have to wait 5 hours. The procedure to negotiate contracts, select a vendor and finalize a contract should be revised. It is totally unacceptable to negotiate and sign a contract without a correct legal protection from significant price increase. How can you successfully manage any budget if you consistently end up paying contractors much more than items were budgeted for, in some cases more than 100% more? I understand that the current administration created huge inflation and our country is not been managed correctly over the last few years, so we are even more fiscally responsible in the areas for which we are responsible. There is no excuse for more money other than because of the increase of the cost of materials included in every contract. This is actually from my example from February 6th. Item 32, Booker High School Visual Performing Arts Renovation Change Order. The original guaranteed maximum price was 3.2 million. Previous change orders were almost 13 million. This change order was 2.5 million. So the new proposed guarantee maximum price is 18.6 million. This might be some typographical error.
Thank you, sir.
6 times.
I apologize, Mr. DeBro. William DeBro is on deck, or is up, and then followed by our last speaker, Carol Lerner.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Connor. I'd like to express my appreciation for your decision to put the noise and distraction of the past behind us and move forward onto the business of the board. To assist in this effort, I'd like to reiterate the previous request to eliminate the fraud that's been taking place in filling out the speaker cards. It's happened in previous meetings where a card's been called, they're filled out 2 cards for the same person. That person's been called and hasn't approached the podium. And the next meeting, a person was called, they did not come to the podium to speak. The last meeting, 4 people were called from the speaker cards that were filled out. None of them came to the podium to speak. So, okay. Secondly, I'd like to address the subject of human trafficking, specifically child trafficking, and the potential for more teachers and other individuals working in the school systems to be better equipped to identify the scourge and effect change for the betterment of the lives of our children. As I understand it, the schools are required to have some level of training for the staff, and I'd like to be contacted to better understand what the training requirements are And so it can be determined if there needs to be supplemental training in order to be effective to achieve the desired results. Being affiliated with various anti-human trafficking groups in Sarasota, I've been in touch with experts who are willing to conduct presentations to teachers and staff to better help identify signs of child trafficking so these problems can then be reported to the sheriff's office and investigated. I hope you've been able to watch the recently released documentary, The War on Children, so you can better make the most informed decision on this request for supplemental training in this area. If we save the life of just one child in our partnership to make this happen, it'll be worth the time and effort expended. I hope you act favorably on the two requests I've made today, and I hope to hear from you soon with you and be able to work with you in a positive way forward for the board and most importantly for our children. Thank you for your time and your continuing efforts to improve the education and well-being of our children.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not a bigot, and I heart Bridget.
Our final speaker, Carol Lerner.
Last but not least, I hope. I'm Carol Lerner, speaking for Support Our Schools. First, I'd like to applaud Mr. Connor for the creation of the African American Task Force. That is really the perfect way to honor Black History Month. But my main concern today is the pending application for the Charter Schools USA proposed Sarasota Classical Preparatory Academy. I just want to interject. I've been a privatization watchdog here for almost the whole of the 9 years that I've lived here. And it used to be that on the website, on the school choice, I believe it is, page, they used to post the application as soon as it came in. I mean, I'm horrified that the board just learned about this. I was upset that I just learned about it just a few days ago myself. So I suggest that we go back to that practice. I do have quite a few questions about this application. Does Sarasota need another Charter Schools USA school when we are hearing what a disaster its new school in Welland Park has become? Does Sarasota need a classical school that plans to use the pedagogy based on rote memorization and repetition? It's in their application, in their K-5 classrooms. Should we be concerned about a school that wants to develop habits like blind obedience and perfect execution, as they do at an existing Charter School USA classical school in Pasco County? Charter Schools USA uses a predatory business model that aims to line the pockets of its uber-wealthy CEO, John Haig. Do you know that Haig has 6 land companies in his name, one of which will eventually purchase the new classical school's property and force it to pay rent to Haig's land company? Did you know that there are 40 active for-profit companies that are connected to Haig that sells curriculum, computer services, landscaping, on and on, to their own schools? At this point, with Sarasota's district enrollment declining, and I was happy to hear at the workshop it's not as bad as we thought, every charter school that is set up and every kid who leaves the district on an ESA weakens our great school system. Already we have a freeze on hiring. If you multiply the number of students that the proposed classical academy projects to enroll by next year, which is 615, and that will double, they claim, in a couple of years, the district on the 615 will lose over $5 million in tuition. Some will say that this will not matter because the district does not have to educate these children. That might be true if all the children came from one school and if the district didn't have fixed costs. Then one could close classrooms. But the children coming from here and there, from different schools and different grades, if a district's population is growing, the school can absorb this decline. But when the population starts decreasing, it forces action.
Thank you, Mrs. Lerner. That concludes public comment. Superintendent Connor, looking at additions and corrections to the agenda.
Madam Chair, there was an addendum added to item 7, the instructional classified personnel report.
Thank you. Agenda item number 5, approval of the consent agenda as amended. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as amended. Seeing no comments, please vote. Thank you. And the consent agenda as amended passes unanimously. Agenda item number 7, new business. Moving on to item number 29. Do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, prior to that, may I?
Please.
I did want to bring up, as I know we did talk about the change orders, but we did have a change order that came back then and a benefit to the district in this one, in the tune of over $10 million. So we did, thanks to Ms. Penner and Mr. Dumas, Ms. Drager, we did find that money, and I just wanted to, I was remiss, I couldn't find the button, but to show that that is money that was recouped back to the district, that $10 million is pretty significant. So thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mr. Enos. Any other comments? Seeing none, item number 29 under new business.
Move to approve the job description for service writer.
Second.
Item number 29, that the new job description of service writer be approved as presented, has a motion and a second. Seeing no comments, or Mrs. Ziegler, please.
Sorry, I just want to, this has nothing to do with specific to this, but it is about job descriptions. I know I brought this up. I know I spoke with the superintendent. I think some of my fellow board members have previously brought this up. Just from an oversight standpoint, there's been years of conversation of, hey, when we bring a new job description, what happens to all the other ones so that there's a check and balance? And I know that Mr. Connor, and I don't want to, if I'm not stating this correctly, please interject, but that you, as you move forward and evaluate staffing allocations and et cetera, to be evaluating the job descriptions. We have a huge bank, like thousands and thousands of them, to make sure that we have, are we going to be reviewing the actual job descriptions and removing any of them, or are we going to, if you want to elaborate that, because I may be butchering that point.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so there is opportunity for us in HR to continuously reevaluate. As we bring in new job descriptions, we also take a look at what job descriptions are don't need to remain on the books. So we do have our Executive Director of HR, Dr. Allison Foster. Did you want to elaborate a little bit about our process for eliminating some of our job descriptions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So some of the job descriptions are additions where we're adding a position, and sometimes we are changing the job description in this particular case. This is coming out of transportation. This is a new position, but that is something that we're always looking to do to keep our bank. The job descriptions that are listed on the website are the ones that are currently active. We do have job descriptions that are not currently active that we have stored, and we have them approved by the board to use in such case if a position is added, but then it does need to come to the board and does come forward. But the ones that are maintained on the website are the ones that are currently active in our district.
Seeing no further comment or question, we will vote. And the item number 29, the new job description of service writer is approved unanimously. Item number 30 under new business, do I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the resolution from millage referendum to support Sarasota County Schools.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item number 30 that the school board approve the resolution for the millage referendum as presented, ensuring continuous support for Sarasota County schools' educational needs. Looking and seeing no comment. Superintendent Connor?
Madam Chair, just want to, for clarity to the public, I know back in March of 2022, we had just recently passed a referendum, a millage referendum, so many may be asking, why are you coming back in 2024? Recently, I think it was in 2022, a matter of fact, that the legislation changed, that no longer can school districts ask for a referendum during a special election. So now, because of the time frame in which that was approved from 22 to 26, it's incumbent for us to come back to the public in 24 so that there is not a gap in the continuation of the referendum on the November ballot. So that is why we're doing this at this time. This referendum has been extremely important, generating about $100 million a year for several very important initiatives for our districts, including recruitment and retention of our teachers, to make sure that we have, and preserving the arts, to make sure that we have special programming, such as the things that we heard today at Riverview High School with the Aquadome and many of our planetarium and all of the initiatives that we have. So this money is foundational to the critical aspects of our school district, and without that, we would be in some dire trouble. So what I would say is, as we bring forth this resolution, that the board support that for the referendum to commence on the November 5th, 2024 ballot to generate roughly $100 million for 2026, 2027, 27, 28, 29, and 2030.
Thank you, Superintendent Connor. Mrs. Ziegler, please.
No, thank you. I'm glad Mr. Connor mentioned this. So previously, I know many of the board members have changed, so they're not up here, but it would come up very frequently when the renewal came forward that it was in a special election, which cost the district anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 to hold a special election. It was regularly discussed here as a board about moving it. I was in the position to move it. However, the previous board did not support that, so I know that the state legislature did support moving general elections because it does save money. It also increases participation, and I will say that this has been a historically very long supported referendum in Sarasota County. I know that a lot of different practices have enhanced over the last couple of years, particularly as it relates to striving for more transparency. And at the appropriate time, I'll address some of the comments that were made today related to accessing documents. But I know that Mrs. Penner and her team, along with Mr. McNelia, I always mess up your last name, have been working to identify not just from the general fund and the money coming in from the referendum, which is, as was mentioned currently, is almost around $100 million, but what that means to individual schools, because I think that really matters to our families. It can, when you talk about in the aggregate, it kind of get lost when you talk about a budget of our size, and so I encourage the public to find out what that is and that impact to your local school, because it's tremendous. And I'm looking forward to this being on a November ballot. I think you'll see that it will continuously be supported. And if you look at our workshops and what's taking place in our district, there's a lot of reason to continue to support that. So I just wanted to highlight those areas.
Thank you, Mrs. Ziegler. Seeing no further comments, questions, please vote. And item number 30, that the school board approve the resolution for the millage referendum as presented, ensuring continuous support for Sarasota County schools' educational needs, passes unanimously. Moving on to board member comments. Mr. Edwards, would you like to go?
Sure. I want to talk a moment about the charter school application. I think I was pretty clear at the workshop that I was not happy that it came at such a late date. But I also want to just remind people of two real important things. One is the previous board denied Charter School USA at Welland Park, and this board approved it. But I want to give a caveat there, because it's real important that the public understand what the board is up against. I appreciate everyone's questions today. I only got through probably a third of my questions. But if we deny this application and we say no, Charter Schools USA has the right to appeal to the state board. And if that appeal is granted, the school district is responsible for paying not only our own legal fees to defend our denial, but we pay for the prevailing. And so a couple of people alluded into the board comments, or, the public comments, that we're in a no-win situation. I'm clarifying that is a no-win situation unless this board is entirely confident that the denial is for really good reasons. And that's why I'm frustrated, because I didn't have time to really sit down and do my due diligence to make sure that I can make a sound business decision, because that's what it's going to come down to. Do I deny the application because they don't belong here, or do I take a risk that they're going to prevail when it gets to the state? And I think it's important that the public understand that the legislature put us in that predicament, and I believe it's done on purpose. That's my personal opinion. But I asked the superintendent at the workshop today to make sure that those documents that we do receive from Charter School USA, based upon, I have a whole list of questions that I'm still going to put forward through our choice office that I want to have answered, and I want to make sure that those questions and answers get public. So please pay attention to our website. I don't know if Mr. Connor has an update. Oh, he does. Okay, so that is an important piece. And I do as best a job as I can to answer emails. I do. So I might give you a quick answer if you sent an email. I need this question answered, or I think this is a good question for Charter School USA. I might give you a quick answer. Okay, I'll process it, so that you know it's in play. But that might just be the best I can do based upon time constraints. Lastly, I need to tell you that I had a member comment that I wanted to put forward in the workshop, that I'm going to put forward here, and it's a formal request for a workshop agenda item, which I thought was 100% appropriate to offer at that time. So I apologize that it's being done at a school board meeting instead of at a workshop. But if you notice, there was a tremendous amount of policy revisions that we have gone shop where we examine those costs and see if there's a better way to spend our legal dollars. And I'm looking for the board to put that as an agenda item on a workshop.
You done?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Mrs. Ziegler.
Thank you. Sure. So I have a couple different things. I want to address a couple comments were on just the attachments, and I would echo some of the comments that Mr. Edwards said as regards to the charter school. I think it's really important to ensure the public has access to as much information. That's been something I've been championed since I've got on this board. We've come a long way, but there's always opportunity to improve. So I can say that formerly as chair, I know that the process that I put in place, and I believe it's continuously being followed here, when it comes to board meetings, making sure that it's published board meeting, what we're sitting in right now, that's published, the agenda is published, and that any items, because sometimes the staff, there's all these various things that they have to do to get attachments, that anything that I was asking the board the board had to take action on by way of vote, that was in consent. It did not have a supporting documentation, that it would automatically go to new business because it's not giving the board or ample time in supporting documents to make their decision, as well as the public to chime in as that. So when it comes to workshops, I would agree. I share that it's important to have that backup. I do know sometimes that they take longer. I don't want to. I think that sometimes just the transactional standpoint, they do take longer. We're not taking action on it, but I would echo the aspect of if there's an opportunity for us to get more information out there, then let's do that. I know that there's been, like I said, there's been a tremendous effort on continuing to improve that, and I'm not sure what the timing was. I'm kind of giving a caveat that I understand sometimes workshop agendas or presentations take a little bit longer, because I know staff they're creating them and also having really vital jobs at the same time. So I have some grace on that, but I just wanted to highlight to the public the separation between school board meetings where there are actions being taken and then a workshop agenda where we're discussing it. However, that being said, a charter school application is huge, and only a couple days to review it is not easy, and so I would echo that. My understanding is that, Mr. Mendiglia, that you guys are going to be adding the charter application. So the charter application is already up under the school choice. So under the school choice banner on the website. And then if I just want to clarify, I know Mr. Edwards and there may be other board members as well as myself who have follow-up questions. Those questions and answers will be provided and posted for the public. Did I understand that correctly, Mr. O'Connor? I'm not sure.
Yes, I'll go ahead and share some information regarding some of the comments that have been made. So on our homepage, those of the public who are interested in the charter school applications that do come in, they will, if you go to departments from our homepage, and then go to charter school applications, that will take you to a landing page where you will see this particular application and all the supporting documents that have been requested in terms of being made public. I do want to say that I do agree that when we can get the information public as quickly as possible so that there is advance notice, this process has been followed the traditional process. So this is a learning curve for me as the new superintendent to see that there is opportunity to improve this process. I do know when this application came in on December 13th, there was 4 charter review committee meetings that occurred that were you could attend if you had emailed, and they're all on our calendar. So what I would encourage the public to do is to watch the calendar, and you'll see the meetings that are posted. And they all say Charter Review Committee, and you can email charterschools@sarasotacountyschools.net, and they will give you a meeting link to any of those Charter Review Committee meetings as well. So on December 12th, January 10th, January 24th, and February the 7th, there were 4 meetings related to this. And so I know sometimes with the rush of the holidays and things are happening, there's a lot going on, that people just, things get busy and, we may fail to look at a calendar, but I would encourage the public to continue to look at that calendar because those are about on every 2-week cycle. We have those meetings if you want to stay fresh. We definitely have learned a lesson in this particular process to get this information as far in advance as possible to the public. They were just following their traditional ways of work there. So we'll work to improve that. What I will say about workshop materials is that they will be posted once they are in their final form. What we do not want to do for the public is to post a presentation like the data presentation that we shared today and then make changes to it right up to the day of the meeting because we've got, we found an error or we wanted to add a different slide. So when we feel that the materials are ready and are in their final form, we will post them as much in advance as possible. I did talk to Mr. Duggan about workshop materials to make sure, we want to do that in terms of transparency, but also we know there's some legalities around regular board meetings needing to be 7 days in advance. Mm-hmm. Workshops, we want them in advance as much as possible, but please understand that the staff is working hard to get those things in final form, and we don't want to post things prematurely only to have to pull it down or create confusion with the public. So.
And just to thank you for that, and because there is a difference, but it's not excusing, but I wanted to highlight that, so appreciate that. And the other part is that they are my understanding is that at a workshop, once they're up, they're or presented to the board, they are accessible to the public. So just wanted to clarify that, which brings me to our presentation today. I, again, cannot reiterate enough. I know that some people watched today's meeting and they spoke their praises, and I want to echo that. Again, the work that under this leadership has been tremendous. My hat's off to staff. The fast pace that you're working, but very, very important work that I believe is going to fully transform this district for the better. I just can't underscore it enough. I literally was almost brought to tears to the point where I just feel that there are things that previously, for whatever reason, and I'm trying to look positive upward, but I want to highlight that it felt like sometimes these things that had huge impacts on families and students that were sometimes swept under the rug, whether it be by the lack of board interest or by a prior administration, whatever that was, that's not happening now. And I just can't tell you how impactful that will be and pay dividends. And so I just want to thank Mr. Connor. I want to thank Mrs. O'Day and all your team, because I know there's a lot of people behind there. And that presentation was stellar. And so I'm very excited. I do want to highlight that I know you mentioned the task force, which Black History Month. I'm very excited about that. And I also appreciate your opportunity to share with the public what the statutory requirements are. Again, I think that I understand, trust me, more than I'm willing to get into now, but I understand that how the impact certain headlines can make or certain things on social media can create a buzz and create a stir that where things are not accurate. And then they pick up steam, and then that's what everyone believes is fact. And so as much as possible as it pertains to the important work that this board's doing, I hope we can find an opportunity to clarify that in a productive manner. And so I really appreciate that. And the last thing I wanted to identify was just, again, kind of in that vein is, well, actually I have two more, sorry. I'll be very quick. Hiring freeze. I know we talked about this today at our workshop. Again, this is an opportunity to highlight what was discussed, some public comment. My understanding is that the loss of enrollment is not that's not why we have a hiring freeze. I just want to clarify, is that, can you speak to that?
I would call it a hiring frost right now. I call it a freeze.
Okay.
So what we're doing now in terms of staffing is we're moving into spring allocations. So we do have a cutoff, and actually today was our last day to actually post any vacancies that schools still need to fill for the remainder of this school year. So they will have about 5 days in order to fill that. Then we go into kind of a shutdown mode, and we begin the spring allocation process that's all about to ramp up here in March. And so I want the public to know at no point are we not advertising for positions of critical need, and that includes core subjects.
Is far, far less than the cost to 30% of our grade 3 students and 70% of our ESE students who haven't been able to read a grade level for the last 7 years and have had no framework or viable data progress monitoring. So if I have to make the choice as a school board member to let go of a superintendent, I'm going to do that again and again. That cost is far less than the cost to thousands of students in this district that have not had viable progress and deserve it and should be getting it and are now. And I'm extraordinarily thankful that we've turned that corner and that we have the leadership that we currently have. And Mr. Duggan, as far as personal attacks, it's interesting that I'm asking you the question, but I want to make any corrections. Definitely, if indeed that language is not in our policy. If you're not prepared to answer that now, if you could prepare in the future.
Sure. No, pardon me. The word personal attack are not in there, but the word abusive is. I mean, it turns into a game of semantics. Is a personal attack abusive? I think you could make that argument. But no, technically the word personal attack is not in our policy.
Thank you. And we are okay to address personal attacks based on abusive.
If they're abusive, threatening, defamatory, obscene, profane, those are the terms in our policy. I think oftentimes personal attacks are those things, although I think you'd have to evaluate each one on its own.
Unfortunately, we're having this conversation and not one that is about the great things that occurred today in the forefront of instruction and learning. As a teacher and for over a dozen years serving locally in a principal, we've far exceeded what I would find comfortable in any school environment. However, the First Amendment is just that here in this boardroom. And on a last note, I had the opportunity, as part of the Council of Governments, we took our fellow government officials to Riverview, and thank you, Superintendent Connor, for highlighting Riverview today, and we're able to show them some of the great things that were going on, and I look forward to hearing more about our schools. We were able to visit the Aqua Dome, especially like the seahorses, and the construction program as well, as where they were coding and building. Most impressive. We have great things to offer in Sarasota County, great leadership, great staff, teachers, and we're most fortunate, and great things that are coming and are here. So, Mr. Enos, is there anything you would like to add?
Yes, just a couple of things. First off, National SRO Day. Safety obviously is something that we looked at the policies today. We're always going to meet or exceed the best practices nationally as well as anything else, because if we are not having our kids safe, you've heard it a million times, they can't learn. If they're not learning, our staff can't function. We need to make sure. So hats off to, should be every day is SRO Day. I think that our staff here does an exceptional job, and I appreciate them. Just know that continually behind the scenes, that they continually look at a layered approach to school safety. So that encompasses a whole bunch of different things, but always will come back to the person and the component of the individual relationship between the school resource officer, the school staff, the parents, the community, in letting us know when a student is in crisis so that there can be the intervention that needs to be. And that's ultimately what prevents some of these tragedies from occurring, is the knowledge and the prevention, because there's only one commonality with every school shooting prior to the event, which was 100% of the time somebody knew and didn't come forward. And that's what we really, really do, and hats off to our school safety, to our school police officers. The other thing, too, is one of the things when it gets back to the attorney, and I agree with Ms. Ziegler in that we need to have an in-depth conversation of it and really look at it when the time is ready. As I know that firm, when they were selected, is that they offer a variety of attorneys that have specializations as it relates to school-related business. So again, I believe there was only 2 firms that offered the same things that were out there, and it was something that I know that we've used other attorneys in there because of their specialization. So I would think that in upcoming that, that would have to be looked at directly to make sure that, again, you would want to do a tax attorney for taxes and a criminal attorney for criminal cases. You would want to make sure that the specialties, that you had people that were on staff that could do that. So, and lastly, the data that was, as being a career law enforcement, we always looked at the data in reference to crime statistics, what's working, what's not working, and how we can do stuff. And today's presentation, when you start looking at moving the needle and the things that are occurring all across, and how we are still above the state, even with the definitions, and they changed the formulas. But I thought today's workshop really showed that, I know without question that Sarasota will be number 1 in the state. And I told Mr. Connor that we will shoot for number 1 in the country. I know that he's up for that task. But I just want to say hats off to Ms. O'Day and the rest of the staff today. What a great presentation it was to show really how we're trying to make sure that, as a school board, the mission of the district is to make kids smarter, right? So that they, or whether it's vocationally or educationally, it's to make kids smarter. And I think that that's the commitment that the board has that was seen today, especially when it comes down to the different pieces that are being implemented across the district. So being long-winded, I just want to say thank you. I thought that that was a great presentation to show us data-wise where we're making adjustments so we can make those adjustments to make our kids better. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Enos. A phenomenal reflection of the workshop today. And for those that are interested, you do not have to watch it in real time. It is on YouTube, just as the board meetings are, for you to watch it your convenience. And we welcome your feedback on that work. That is the most important work of the board, and I feel it's going extraordinarily well. Ms. Marinelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also just want to thank Mrs. O'Day and everybody that worked so hard on the workshop. It was excellent, probably the best I've ever really seen as far as data in my career, so thank you. But I do want to, Superintendent Connor, if you could, you don't have to answer these now, but I was making notes because unfortunately I think some of our comments from the public try to change the narrative of what's really going on in the district. So my first one is I'd like to ask, are individuals removing books from the library shelves? And then I'd like to know if you're getting any feedback from your staff or from the union that teachers are feeling that they're being threatened of being fired and not being supported by this board or anybody in this district. And I'd also like to know if you've received or any staff have received that there's reports that students are being harmed. And then I would like to comment, and you might be, that we have not done away with character ed. That is a legislative thing. What did take place is the curriculum was changed. But character education is still being taught to our students. So that was not a correct statement that character ed was done away with. The curriculum that was used previously was, but there was a new curriculum that was adopted. So if whenever you can, because I'd really like to know those, because if any of that is true, then that needs to be addressed. But if it's not true, it needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Seeing no further comment, the next board meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 5th at 6:00 p.m. Thank you, everyone. This is adjourned.